Okay, it's time to get the meeting started. At this time, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Senator Butler. Here. Senator Figures. Senator Hatcher. Here. Senator Hovey. Here. Senator Kitchens. Here. Senator Price. Here. Senator Shellnut. Senator Smitherman. Here. Senator Stutz. Senator Chasteen.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Okay, we'll have a quorum, so at this time, we'll ask the clerk to call the first bill.
HB 266 by Representative Woods.
Representative Woods, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for allowing me to present HB 266 to you today. We've named this bill the Restoring Educational Attainment of Completing High School Act, the REACH Act. And what this bill aims to do is to reach students who have dropped out of high school, to give them a second chance at obtaining their high school education and making them more employable. We want to give these students another path forward to help them be in a position to enter into our workforce. There's several points to this bill. I'll try to keep it brief. This bill, I'm sorry. Explain this then. Okay, we can do that. All right, well, the two main parts then we'll just say. This bill requires a reporting from the State Department of Education to report to the adult education department within the community college system, at least quarterly, the students who are dropping out of school. Currently, when a student withdraws from high school, they have an exit interview, and that's pretty much the end of it unless they reach out to the school and ask for additional opportunities for their education. This will help our adult education departments in the state know these students exist. They already offer GEDs, they offer skills-based training, they offer a non-traditional high school diploma option, and if a student doesn't know these exist, they can't participate, they can't take advantage of it. So this will help the adult ed departments reach out to these students and put them in an educational pathway. It also codifies the Alabama High School, non-traditional Alabama High School Diploma Option Program as an alternative pathway for individuals age 18 who have withdrawn from high school to earn their diploma. A lot of folks don't realize you can get your high school diploma through adult ed in the state of Alabama. You have to wait till age 19, though, to participate in that. We all know that high school dropouts are at a higher percentage chance of becoming unemployed, underemployed, or incarcerated. The longer that they are in that category, the more likely that is to happen. And so we want to reduce that age from 19 to 18 in hopes that we can put them in this pathway and make them more employable. For our K-12 partners, we've also amended this bill on the House floor to not count the students who are pursuing their non-traditional high school diploma option against them on the state report card. So as long as that student's trying to get their high school diploma, we're not going to count them as a dropout in hopes that they can complete it. It will help them with their state report card in that manner. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Senator Smitherman?
I have a few, and I start out with, what's the difference in the class, quote, workload of the student who's going to high school straight through to 12 and to this student that goes into some different pathway, but they're going to get a diploma? How is it that they're going to go that way and that diploma is the same value for the one that's been grinding it out all the way through this way? Is that the case? Is those degrees equal?
It's my understanding that the weighting of the non-traditional high school diploma has the same weight as a traditional high school diploma.
Well, why would we think that students are going that don't want to be up in school won't just say, I'm gonna drop out and go there? My concern is that we're gonna backfill that program with everybody who decides that I don't want to be here, I'm going to go on over here and just get my degree. I mean, that's not good. To do it for that reason, right, is not good. So, I mean, what's it going to be that motivation for a kid to go all the way through high school versus going into this program? There's no motivation if it's the same degree.
Well, they would have to wait till age 18 to even participate in this program.
When you said wait, I mean, everybody in 12th grade is going to be just about 18.
Some, maybe, may not, but by the time you're 18 in the 12th grade, I don't know why you drop out to go pursue it in another place. I guess that's possible, but at the same time, I don't think that's going to be the intent. And also, this this bill, when you look at it, there's not going to be anything communicated to a student prior to them already withdrawing. They're not even going to know this program exists until they've already dropped out. So we're trying to grab them after they've already left school and bring them back in. We're not going to preemptively encourage them to go down this other.
I mean, but they're
alternate
gonna know. I mean, it ain't something secret.
path. Right. I would say if a student was interested in dropping out, if they had a reason, that they needed to drop out, this is a great path. I think they should continue through their traditional high school if they can, obviously, but there's really no benefit to them doing that.
I understand what you're saying, and I guess for the audience purposes, I'll have to say this, and then you can see why I'm coming from where I'm coming. I was part of the group many years ago. I just throw 20 out there, who actually set up the process to deal with dropout prevention. Several of these people in here were part of the group. In fact, Mr. Chairman, where you? He knows what I'm talking about. He helped me. And he took it another step further after I did what I did. So I had to say that to you, that no, I'm down with what you're saying about dropouts. My concern is all these different things to avoid going to school and getting your lesson and getting a degree by being prepared by the 4x4 curriculum that we set up that these students ought to go by. Now we're saying over here, you can just do this here and you're going to get the same thing as these folk we making to get the 4x4. I got concerned with that, not with what you're doing. It shouldn't be a full diploma. If they ain't going to do the full curriculum, just like we do when we send them to two-year schools, they get something. They don't get a associate degree. They get a certification or whatever they get in terms of that 2 years school, if they're going there for a special course so they can go work. Here, we're giving them the same value as these people who've gone through and did the 4x4. And they ain't prepared to take that to go no college. No, they're not. I see you looking at me, but they ain't ready. So what I'm saying, how we going to get them there? Because, see, I'm concerned about the student. This ain't a feel good. I'm concerned about the student. And right now, I don't see that link between this kid here in high school who ain't, that's why, do you think that's why they said 19 in the first place? So that they would have to go through, and then if they are, quote, too old, then they say, well, I don't want to be there, and then this is a course to get it. I don't like that bagging. I'm through, Mr. Chairman, when I say this. I don't like that bagging up to no 18 while they still in high school doing that. I got a concern with that while they're in school there. I'm not talking about what you're saying. Somebody that's 16, 17, ain't been to school that year or whatever, you're trying to recapture them back. But I think it's some more tightening up got to be on what takes place here, the age, and then they go into this. Because I agree with your concept is that, no, I don't want anybody to stay out there dropped out. And I think my work over the last 20 years will back up what I said. But I still want to say to you that I got concerns with that part right in there, that we're going to shortchange the 4x4 process and give them the same reward as all these students who go by the 4x4. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Representative Woods, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
What's the dropout rate now in Alabama in our high schools?
I think we don't have an accurate number because this reporting is not being made available currently. And the best I've been able to find is about 5%. And that's through some online research, but we don't. One of the reasons we need this bill is so we can actually get the numbers and know exactly what we're dealing with.
And also the curriculum for the GED. Okay, can you explain the makeup of the curriculum as opposed to the traditional? I think that would be important for us as well.
If you would allow, we've got some folks here with adult ed from the community college system. If you wouldn't mind me bringing them up to answer that question.
I'd like to hear that, please.
Good afternoon, Senator Chastain.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Second time this week, right?
Well, it's second time this week, absolutely. So let me kind of go into detail on the curriculum that we utilize. First, everything we utilize is evidence-based and research-based. It's curriculum that's designed for college level students, but we brought it down to a secondary level. So you've got the GED, which is nationally recognized. We can use portions of the GED assessment. We also use the ACT work keys. Many of you all are familiar with that. Our high school students use the ACT work keys. We also do integrated education and skills training. So Donnie, while they're working toward a skills certificate, we also blend in academic instruction into that. Our college is then able to give credits for that. So we can give up to 3 credits for a class like that. So we back that up to if you can give 3 college credits, then it would make sense to give 3 high school credits based on the college level curriculum that the student went through. So this is high stakes measurement, high stakes instruction. It's nothing that is certainly getting around anything. Actually, if anything, it's probably showing that the individual has a skill set, a skill that is aligned to industry sector needs, and certainly allows them to go into the industry sector as quickly as possible.
Okay. Any questions? Well, I think this, Senator Smitherman, I think this, to your point, I think we wanted to make sure that it wasn't, the standards weren't being weakened, so that if they're getting their GED, it's kind of an easy pathway to obtain their degree, diploma. Am I correct in what you're thinking?
Yes, sir. You are,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Can I ask the question? Maybe
Yes, sir.
I can answer to you or vice versa. Then when does it kick in that they can then become eligible to apply for this program? And you said, what are you talking about? Here's a kid in school, I'm in 11th grade, okay? I said 11th grade, 11th grade, okay. At what point will this child be able, if they drop out in the 11th grade, to then be a part of this program?
So if the individual drops out and the individual is 17, then right now they would not be eligible for this type of program.
What would
So
they
we
be
would
eligible
work them toward the GED. GED. But
Okay.
if they turn 18 and they still have not completed the requirements for the GED, we then could transfer them into the high school diploma option program. And those credits that they earn through the GED would transfer over. The American Council on Education does a transfer for subjects within the GED, and they give actually college credit. So if we give college credit for it, then we can go back and give high school credits. And also remember, anyone who drops out, they have to have at least 10 credits or they're not eligible for this program. So they would do the traditional GED program. If they have at least 10 credits, then we've got ways that I explained earlier that will help them build credits so they get to the number of 24 credits. And then that is turned over to the local high school, and the local high school goes through the transcripts, make sure everything matches up in the way that it should, and then they're the ones that issues the high school diploma, not the Alabama Community College system. Okay?
What, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
What's the comparison and contrast? Here's the GED curriculum.
Uh-huh.
Here's the one you're trying to get us established right now. This program right here in the bill.
Uh-huh.
What's the difference in those two curriculums?
Well, the GED program is very specific to the GED assessment. So you've got
Right.
basically 4 sections of the GED that covers reading, comprehension, so forth, mathematics,
The 4x4.
social studies, and science. So it covers those 4, okay? Then the curriculum we utilize to build credits is things that would align to academic and technical training that we offer through the community college system.
Okay. Although technical training won't transfer to a 4-year school. That's a fact. I mean, I'm not, I've been a dean.
Well,
I've been a dean at a junior
yeah.
college. It won't transfer, and so it's not to prepare them there, it's prepare them for the job, right?
That's right. But certainly we can make it credit-based, and you can assign credits to individuals that go through certain levels of training. So it's creditable. It's the term creditable. Yeah.
I got you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other questions for Representative Woods? To your motion? Favor? Representative Kitchens, second. Representative Price. Let's call the roll, please.
Senator Butler. Senator Chastain.
Aye.
Senator Figures. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kitchens. Senator Price. Senator Shelnut. Senator Smitherman.
Aye.
Senator Stutz.
Okay, 9-0, bill's given a favorable report. Thank you,
Mr.
Representative
Chairman,
Woods.
thank you, committee.
Yes, sir. Okay, clerk, would you call the next bill, please?
SB 85 by Senator Orr.
Okay, we do have a public hearing on this. Go ahead, Senator Orr. Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, well, good afternoon. This is a bill that this committee saw last year and reported it out. It's the same bill as last year, and bringing it back, it went to the House and eventually died, but would like to try again. And the concept is simple. Right now, under current law, to be exempt for a religious exemption, in the K-12 world, you have to go to the public health department in your county, get a special piece of paper or notice. It's not discretionary, so it's mandatory. They have to give it to you. But the experience has been many times in these offices, the mom or dad or whomever's taking the child, they get asked about their religious beliefs. Why do you believe this? Why don't you take vaccines? Why don't you want this for your child? Do you not know what's safe? They have to watch a video a lot of places. Even in the city of Mobile or county of Mobile, they got sued because they were charging a $30 fee to get the piece of paper based on your religious beliefs, which, anyway, I'll reserve comment on that. You may say, well, do many states do this, or, are we cutting new ground here? I'll read the list of states that allow parents to, in writing, provide to the school directly. They don't go to the public health department. They go to the school and provide directly a notice that they're wanting their child for religious reasons to be exempt from the vaccine requirement. Alaska, Arizona, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. That's the process. There's other things you could say, well, it's going to cut down on the public health requirements to have a worker deal with the people coming in wanting exemption from vaccines on their because of their religious beliefs. It will also bring some clarity to the higher ed world. But fundamentally, if you do have a religious objection, I think that this state in our Constitution wants to respect that and not subject parents to being subjected to an inquisition sometimes by public health workers. So I'll yield.
Thanks, Senator Orr. We do have one person to speak as an opponent for the bill. Would you call her up, please?
April Hartsfield with Voices for Alabama's Children.
You have 2 minutes, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am April Hartsfield, Alabama Kids Count Director at Voices for Alabama's Children. Voices is a nonpartisan, statewide child advocacy organization. Our mission is to speak for the well-being of Alabama's children through research, public awareness, and advocacy. While we appreciate the right of parents to make the best decision for their own children, our concern about this bill is the effect it will likely have on the population of children at large in our state, especially children who are immunosuppressed and infants too young for vaccinations. Currently, there is a system in place to identify when and where outbreaks occur. This bill will circumvent that system, preventing health officials from knowing when and where those outbreaks occur. Not every school has a school nurse or another system set up to handle this. This is not the primary goal of our schools of identifying outbreaks. And with highly contagious diseases such as measles, they can spread rapidly. We're watching this happen across the country right now. So it is important to have as much time as possible to identify and deploy these resources to stop that outbreak. The current system does this. We fear that this bill will needlessly impact many vulnerable children whose health is already at risk and they are not able to get vaccinations. We ask that you keep the system we already have in place and functioning, and that you vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Couple of questions.
Me too, but he.
Senator Hatcher.
You was up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm guessing you can sit down, Ms. Hartsfield.
Okay.
I'm guessing my concern, and for the sake of transparency, of course, as you all know, I'm a Head Start director, and so I've got a lot of babies. And one of the concerns that I have would be around how we go about tracking say, for example, we have a measles outbreak, right? So I guess I don't know if someone is here from the State Department of Public Health, but I think I'd like to know what the policy is for whether or not the Public Health Department asks the question of a person's religious affiliation or what, and also what is the process for tracking, especially if we don't have, what we call herd immunity. Mm-hmm. So, because we're not simply talking in the abstract right now. We literally have a measles outbreak. And so I'm eager to hear, is there anyone from the?
Senator Orr.
The imprint system that is in place for every child, and we've got Dr. Stutz here, who probably knows what I'm talking about, is in place for every child that's vaccinated. So if you take your child to one doctor or another doctor and get vaccinations, that information goes to the state public health department, and they have a record of every child now. Probably not when we were growing up, but now there is a central database where they know who all has been vaccinated and what vaccines they have received as a child coming up through the system.
Is Ms. Hartsfield, is that what you understood in what Senator Orr just mentioned in terms of the tracking for?
Our understanding is that there is a way to monitor who does not get vaccines, but I think it stops at that. Our understanding is that it is not the policy to ask anything further.
Okay, thank you. Senator Smithman, do you have a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I see a question or comment. I see this as a two-part situation. One, we're talking about parents having the ability to go through this process to make the decision about vaccination. But on the other hand, based on what she was just saying from Voices, is that also we got a public safety concern. And ain't no way to make a few folk happy because they don't want to do this. We should jeopardize every one of these students, whether it be in charter, private, or wherever it is, or public, to being subject to being infected. Because that's what we really saying is that, okay, they shouldn't have to take the vaccine, but let them go to school and breathe and infect around everybody else. So if you're going to do something like this, then it needs to be some provision like this. Then if you don't want, we know what's going on, measles and everything. So if you don't want your child to have vaccine, then they need to be at home with Zoom. That's all that I'm saying. We should not subject these other kids to that because no matter how much these kids vaccinate, when this one come in there, y'all saw that with COVID. Those took COVID shots and still got COVID. So if they come in there, we subject every teacher, every kid in the whole school. First time one of these go in the bathroom and touch something, everybody come in that bathroom to touch that, they gonna get it. So we cannot pass a bill with the provisions of allowing them to not be public safety and then go into the school. That's all I'm telling everybody.
Okay.
If you
Senator Orr,
yeah.
you're recognized.
So I would say that's the point of vaccines. If you're vaccinated, what's your worry? As far as the vaccinated children getting whatever the disease is. Further, this is on the books now. I mean, that if you want the exemption, you got to go to the state. This just removes that step of having to go to the public health department sometimes perhaps getting berated or talked down to by a bureaucrat in the office there and going through that hurdle. Now you just fill out a form, submit it to your local school, and say, I request a religious exemption from vaccination for my child.
Okay.
And,
Yes, sir.
let me say it like this. You heard me talk about the airplane. You're right. When that plane took off, it wasn't no consideration of the incidentals. You're right, what you said. But if we're going to go back and do this, we need to correct that. That's what I'm saying. Because it wasn't corrected over there, that don't mean, we shouldn't look at it. Just like he just said. If we are going to open this up and encourage it even more, if that's what people want to do, fine. But we need to now address what happens to these students who are vaccinated and who are not infected, and the issue of these kids being molded into them and warned.
Okay. Thanks, Senator. Senator Shelnut? Move for favorable. Do I have a second? Senator Price? Okay. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Senator Butler. Senator Chastain.
Aye.
Senator Figures. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kitchens. Senator Price. Senator Shelnut. Senator Smitherman.
I'm going to abstain.
Senator Stutz.
Aye.
6-0.
Okay. 6 favorable, 2 abstentions. Senator Orr, the bill's given a favorable report. Thank you. Okay, members, we have a public hearing on our next bill by Senator Kelley. And we'll let him explain his bill, and then we'll have 4 opponents and 4 proponents speaking with 2 minutes each. And I've told the committee members and I've told the sponsor that we will not vote the bill out of committee today. We want to have our public hearing, and then we'll hear from our committee members, okay? So, Senator Kelley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. The Ten Commandments have deeply influenced the development of the legal system, particularly in Western countries. Roman law shares ethical principles similar to those found in the Ten Commandments. For example, the protection of family life, property, and human dignity, which aligns with the commandments against murder, theft, and adultery. The Roman legal system, their principles also support contract law. In the Middle Ages, kings often ruled that the authority of divine law, which they believed included the Ten Commandments, was their basis. The church's role in medieval Europe as both religious and political authority further intertwines the Ten Commandments with their society as well. In modern legal systems, especially in the countries like the United States, the principles of the Ten Commandments have influenced the development of laws that govern society, prohibition of murder, theft, so on and so forth. In cultural aspects, art and literature, social aspects and movements, for example, Martin Luther King, in his work for civil rights, invoked the themes from the commandments such as justice, equality, drawing parallels between commandments to fight for human dignity. Our country has long been a figure with our historical documents, acknowledged in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the Mayflower Compact, and others. The Ten Commandments have influenced our history through our law. Even with the law of England, with Sir William Blackstone, the laws on commentary references the nature in the Ten Commandments. What this bill does, it would require each local board to display the Ten Commandments in a common area in a school under its jurisdiction. The bill would provide that no local board of education or public institution is required to use its funds to comply with a display of these commandments. It can accept donations to do that. The bill also would require that the State Department of Education to identify and publicize free resources for local boards and of education to use to comply with this requirement. So that's basically what the bill does. It just provides for the display of those commandments. It's not promoting any particular religion. Of course, we all know the Ten Commandments are found in numerous religious doctrines. All it is doing is promoting those 10 Commandments as a foundation for Western cultural law and the founding of our country from a historical perspective.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Kelley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. At this time, we'll begin our public hearing. And as I said, we have 4 opponents and 4 proponents. The first opponent, clerk, will you call the first opponent, please?
Reverend Lynn Hopkins.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Senators. And with respect to Senator Kelley, the suggestion that posting the 10 Commandments is not specific to any religion is patently false. What I'm concerned about, first of all, is that there is no specification in this text. Are we talking about the Jewish phrasing and numbering system, or the Catholic, or the majority Protestant? Now, there may be other Protestant expressions. I don't know. There are so many hundreds of Protestant traditions. But I do know that there are 3 distinctly different sets of 10 Commandments. So someone has to pick one. And when you pick one, you have endorsed that particular religious tradition. Now, in my tradition, and in most of which I am aware, it is absolutely necessary that a religious commitment be voluntary. Otherwise, it's superstition. It is necessary that an act of worship be entirely voluntary. Otherwise, it is just state-sponsored idolatry. If you truly wish to destroy the system of conscientious religious tradition in Alabama, this is the way to do it.
30 seconds remaining.
There is no more effective way to undermine a religious tradition and a movement than by offering it a state sanction. Thank you.
Thank you. The first proponent, Jim Love, is that correct? Lowe, I'm sorry, excuse me. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Our nation was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. History will show from this nation's beginning, the 10 Commandments have been widely recognized as being ordained by our Creator as the foundational source of our moral law. They offer timeless guidance on our relationship with our Creator and one another. They promote respect, honesty, and integrity, values that are essential to a just and orderly society. Historically, it is a well-known fact that the 10 Commandments have influenced American law and culture. From our courtrooms to our public institutions, these principles have served as a moral compass, promoting true justice and harmony for all of our communities. However, as these values have been increasingly removed from our public spaces, including our schools, we have seen a troubling rise in societal issues like crime, disrespect, and a lack of personal responsibility. Let's be clear. Displaying the 10 Commandments in public schools is not about promoting a specific religion, but about reinforcing the fundamental universal values that were a part of our nation's greatness. The knowledge of them will benefit all students. Senators, these commandments teach basic principles such as honoring parents, respecting others' property, and valuing truthfulness. They provide a framework that encourages good
30 seconds
citizenship
remain.
and community responsibility. Our youth are the future of our nation. By exposing them to these timeless principles, we help build a foundation of character and ethics that can positively influence their lives and ultimately improve our society. We owe it to our children and our community to remind them of these enduring truths that have helped shape our nation, producing great, noble men and women that honor them. I strongly urge a favorable report from this community.
Thank you, sir.
From this committee for a favorable report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person and opponent is Rabbi Steve Silberman. Hope I got that close.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Education Committee, Senator Kelley, I'm Stephen Silberman, Rabbi of Mobile's Historic Conservative Synagogue. I'm the longest-serving synagogue rabbi in the state of Alabama. We lived in a number of locations, my wife and I, Los Angeles, where I studied in seminary, Jerusalem, New York, Arizona, Connecticut. We moved here 35 years ago and fell in love with Mobile. And that's why we're still here in Alabama. We raised our kids here. And I appreciate your passions, but I'm very concerned about posting a hodgepodge English version of the Aseret Dibrot, which has been mentioned is the original Hebrew presentation. It's even inaccurate to call them commandments. In Hebrew, they're called the 10 words. Placement of displays in our schools is an intrusion into the minds and the hearts of our students. That's big government in every sense of the word. Students will turn to their respected authority figures, faculty, teachers, and say, what do these posts mean? Displaying Aseret Dibrot, the 10 Jewish words, unfairly sidelines Alabamians who may have diverse views of religious traditions. It may brook hostility for religious tradition, and my tradition is a minority community and minority tradition. I'm overly sensitive to those who are in minority roles and experiences in our lives of being looked down upon and treated negatively. Members of county boards of education, local principals, and teachers across our state are not necessarily well
30
trained
seconds remain.
to explain this program. Faith and religious matters belong to each and every one of us and are best served by private reflection or personal worship with chosen faith and an expression of conscience. Please take a stand for conscience and allow our people to broaden and enrich their lives themselves without government interference. We all deserve better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next proponent is Ms. Becky Garrettson.
I am not Becky Garrison.
Tell.
But I
I'm
do,
wrong.
she was gracious enough to allow me to speak before I need to move on. I've got a meeting I'm running late for, but I wanted to address this issue.
Sure.
So I am John Wall. As chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, I'm very supportive of the idea of displaying 10 Commandments in our classrooms. And I say that because two things. One, I think it's incredibly important that we recognize what the 10 Commandments have done for our society for generations. This is not about forcing religion on anyone, but recognizing the historical value and the moral values of the 10 Commandments and their impact on our legal system, on our state, and on our country. There's a reason that the 10 Commandments are displayed at the front of the Supreme Court building. It is because they are a fundamental building block of the legal system and our laws. And I think looking at Moses as a great lawgiver, whether you look at this through the spectrum of the Christian faith or the Jewish faith or whatever faith, it's more about the fundamental moral principles they represent: honesty, integrity, dignity, the respect for human life. These are principles that everyone, that make society better and that everyone can and should agree with. And so I think that's very important to remember in this conversation. The second thing is displaying the 10 Commandments in government buildings or in schools is not new. We're not talking about a new concept. In fact, early in our nation's history, this was commonplace. And I think we need to keep that in perspective too. We're not necessarily forcing the 10 Commandments into our classrooms. We're replacing them and restoring them to a place that they historically held. And that's another fundamental fact that we need to keep in mind. This is not a disrespectful thing. This is not a new thing. This is something that has been done for generations. It's a respect for our legal system. It's respect for our faith. And it's a respect for the dignity and the moral values that this country was founded on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Okay, the next opponent to speak is Reverend Eric Clark.
I want to thank the committee for this opportunity to appear before you. I serve as the Minister of Community Engagement at Baptist Church of the Covenant in Birmingham, a faith community that cherishes its Baptist heritage and the freedom of religion that this heritage has historically championed. I want to share with you today my heartfelt conviction that SB 166 contradicts the message and character of Jesus of Nazareth, whom many of our state legislators profess to follow. Mind you that I take no issue with the 10 Commandments, I cherish them and try and fail and try again to live them out in my own life. After all, Jesus came not to abolish the commandments of the law, but to fulfill them. That said, he was never in the business of compelling belief. Rather, his way was one of free invitation and compassionate, humble service. He came not as an emperor, but as a day laborer, and in the end was executed as an enemy of the state. When we try to legislate religious practice, we distort the very heart of the gospel. I know many of our state legislators hold their faith dear, but taking this legislative path is a dangerous road. It can corrupt both the church's spiritual integrity and the government's impartiality. True Christian witness has never been about power-mongering, but rather the profound, redemptive love embodied by the cross, a love that gently draws people in and does not force itself on others. For a time, I lived in a country that historically granted special privileges to a certain church tradition over other faiths.
30 seconds.
And this privileging drained vitality from this tradition and drove people from its houses of worship. Our state legislators who support these bills think they are doing the Christian faith and the public a favor, but they are in fact hindering its witness. Love of neighbor is what is persuasive, and these bills are anything but neighbor love. The compassion and hospitality that define Jesus' ministry stand in stark contrast.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. Thank you. Okay, the next person to speak as a proponent is Ms. Becky Garrettson. Now we got it right.
Thank you. Thank you for considering this important piece of legislation and for holding this public hearing. I'm Becky Garrettson from Eagle Forum. I'm the executive director. SB 166 follows the 2022 landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision in the Kennedy case that overturned a flawed legal precedent which had been used since 1980 to ban public displays of the Ten Commandments. For thousands of years, the Ten Commandments have represented a universal moral code that transcends specific religions, providing a foundational ethical framework for society. The commandments are the cornerstone of Western civilization and American law. These fundamental principles benefit society by reminding us of basic moral values such as respecting life, property, and truthfulness, which are essential for well-functioning community and regardless of your religious affiliation. The Ten Commandments are an integral part of both Alabama and American heritage. They're deeply embedded in our identity as a people and as a nation, and this legislation aligns with our history and our traditions. SB 166 will provide Alabama students with a visual reminder of the profound influence the Ten Commandments have had on our history, our legal system, and Western civilization. Additionally, it may positively impact behavior by serving as a visual aid to uphold ethical standards, potentially deterring criminal activity and promoting good citizenship. The Supreme Court's decision in the Kennedy case clearly gives the Alabama legislature the right and, in our opinion, the responsibility to return the Ten Commandments to their rightful place of honor and influence in Alabama schools.
30 seconds.
We hope that reintroducing the commandments will positively impact students' lives. Thank you for enriching the lives of our young people by reintroducing the commandments into their school, and I ask that you please give this a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the last person to speak as an opponent is Reverend Julie Conradi. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman.
You can correct me.
You are correct. Thank you. Chairman, Senators, thank you for bearing witness to our testimony today, which reflects the professional and sacred opinion of learned clergy who are speaking out against this Ten Commandments bill. I present today a letter with 36 signatures of clergy from Huntsville to Mobile, clergy of all religious traditions, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Unitarian, Universalist. As the leader of an interfaith community, each of our religious traditions holds the authority of the Ten Commandments in a different light. And yet we all agree that there is no place for the Ten Commandments in our public schools. There are two different versions of the Ten Commandments found within the scriptures, Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. And that is 300 to 400 words that whoever wrote this bill summarized and made a decision distinct of that. We believe that it's up to faith communities and faith leaders to interpret Scripture and to each individual to interpret Scripture as part of their personal faith journey. but it is not the government's place nor the place of public schools to discern which words from the Ten Commandments are important enough to put on a poster. Whether the poster says thou shalt not kill versus thou shalt not murder is a theological position and a scholarly translation which is not meant for government to decide. As the parent of 2 public school children, it is my responsibility to teach my children about the Ten Commandments when, how, and if I wish,
30 seconds.
without them thrust upon my children during their educational time. My young children do not need an explanation of what adultery is at the age of 6. It was not posted in the classrooms at the founding of our nation because it was my religious ancestors who founded this nation, and they were deists. This bill is a violation of the First Amendment. It imposes a certain religious understanding of a certain text that has been hodgepodge together and linguistically abused.
Thank you, ma'am.
And has no place in our public schools.
Thank you.
I have copies of the letter.
Okay, and the final person to speak as a proponent, sit it on the top.
Is this yours?
Thank you.
Mr. John Eidsmo?
Yes, sir.
Esmo?
You got it. Thank you. I've given my written testimony for you here. I'm going to disregard that right now and ask you to look at it, and rather just speak as both a pastor and as a constitutional law professor, addressing both the legal and the theological ramifications of this. I would respond, first of all, to Reverend Comrade that the overwhelming majority of our founding fathers were not deists, and I could demonstrate that in my book, Christianity and the Constitution. To Reverend Silverman, I would simply respond that, pardon me? I'm sorry, my apologies, and I did know that. My apologies, sir. But to Rabbi Silverman, I would simply say that I think it's a simplistic notion to say that everything is either 100% religious or 100% secular. As Chief Justice Rehnquist said in the Van Orden versus Perry decision, he said, of course the Ten Commandments are religious. But Moses was a lawgiver as well as a religious leader, and the Ten Commandments have an undeniable historical meaning. I'd further respond to one of the reverends who did speak about the character of Jesus, that certainly we don't compel, but just putting a plaque on the wall is not compelling belief. And finally, as far as the phrasing of the Ten Commandments, I think there's a valid reason why they are stated in the bill the way exactly as they are. There are at least three traditions, the Jewish tradition, the Catholic and Lutheran tradition, and then the tradition of most Protestants. But if you notice there, we do not number them. We list them and incorporate all three traditions. They are not numbered there, and that's the way it really ought to be. That's another thing about the way they're worded there. That is the wording that was upheld in the Van Orden versus Perry decision, and it's probably the most commonly known. Those are the reasons we've used that. We think it's entirely appropriate.
30
I
seconds.
urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Senator Kelley, you have any closing comments?
I appreciate the committee, and I appreciate all those that spoke for and against. I think the dialogue's been good today. It's interesting that some of the points that were made today, if you read the bill, those points are covered in the bill. It explains it in detail. So I don't have anything further to add other than I appreciate everyone's time today and consideration on this. I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the committee and your consideration for this. Thank you,
Senator
sir.
Kelley. Members, want to thank you. And again, as I stated earlier, we will not be voting on this. We will carry it over and we'll have it called back up again. I want to thank all of those who took the time to come in and speak today on their beliefs and their behalf. And we stand adjourned. Thank you. Yes, sir.